And I think I didn't have that with Bleach.
What the hell are you talking about?
I know that neurodivergency comes in different shapes. Not all of it is autistic spectrum.
Welcome to Stanis podcast number 3. Today we have my dear sister, Maia. Does that sound? It sounded like interference, actually. So yeah, Maia, tell us how you're doing.
I'm pretty good. I'm in the United States at the moment.
Yeah. There were a couple of things I wanted to discuss. I watched the Godzilla Netflix reimagining of some classic characters, but it also had this like parallel world, science, sci-fi weirdness, which is not in the regular Godzilla. That's just kind of explained where are all those weird creatures coming from. And after that, I found out that, and Maya did not believe me when I mentioned it before, Godzilla is the longest running film franchise. Actually, that's the biggest one. 39 films, if you count the one that is going to come out in 2024. And that's the biggest.
That's crazy.
70 years.
That's absolutely crazy. And I think it's because it's 70 years, because there should be more Bond movies than that. It's like over 50 or something. It was like a very, very, very strong movie. The very first one, where they're like
black and white.
the black and white, where the person is in the Godzilla costume. Actually, it's very moving. Later it became like a little ridiculous with all of the Godzilla children and funny things, but the first ones are very heavily the atomic bomb metaphor, like nature and human-made terror like clashing and like how it affects people. It's actually pretty sad and like gives a feeling of awe, like even though it's like a dude in a costume in a black and white. It's actually pretty good. It does go crazy later.
I never watched the original,
we did watch
Godzilla.
that in the childhood together. You just don't remember it probably.
I think I remember watching the later versions, like which were already colored with the blue atomic breath. They were using some nice toys, and there was the Mecha Godzilla and all of that. And it was actually I actually remember that you were scared.
Yeah, I was.
By some of the
I was so
moments.
scared by it. I don't know why. I think it's what the normal children are scared of in Jurassic Park, you know, like when the glass is shaking and all that. In my brain, those people in costumes were full on, it's horrible, everyone is gonna blow up, like I'm gonna get smashed by a paw, like. But I was like 6 or 7, I think, when that was. I don't, maybe even 5.
I remember when the American version of the film was running in Russian cinemas and theaters, they had like this giant Godzilla foot installation, coming right out of the ceiling.
Oh, that was impressive.
And that really made an impression on me, because it felt like it's real and it's right here. And when I was a kid, things like that, they just occupied my mind. I was thinking about it the whole way home. It actually enriched my imagination for other stuff so that I could now have a 3D feeling.
Yeah, and it just gave the scale. I remember that very well because I had a very similar feeling. I remember it very well. And we actually never watched that movie. I watched it much later and I was severely disappointed by it. But we haven't watched it at that moment, so it was kind of merged with the context of the older movies for me. Yeah, but it was very impressive. It was for
me
like
too.
A child.
It was a bit wrong. Old Godzilla actually had kind of weird
Yeah,
things.
yeah, the stumpy
So it's but it also merged for me as well. Really, really nice. And overall, like some of this imagery that gets stuck in your brain when you're a child, like the atomic breath, like it underlines all of the anime experiences I have, because like they're just all shooting lasers at each other, but somehow it never feels, well, sometimes it does. It almost never feels quite as powerful, like because in those movies, even though it was toys, they understood that you need to destroy things and you need to show them sort of like in a stable environment and context in scale. I'd say One Punch Man is one of the animes that managed to do that, because they show destruction and you feel it, you understand the scale. Definitely they took some inspiration from the kaiju movies, if you look at the like different giant monsters that invade cities. But this understanding of sort of like how to portray something completely imaginary, like abstract, absurd, in an actual city, I think that what underlines a lot of Japanese cool battle culture.
The thing is that the Japanese are that good at portraying that so guttural, I would say, because there are a lot of cultural essays written about that and stuff. because it is underlined by the unique Japanese atomic bomb experience, because that mass destruction.
Oh, that sounds so bad. That sounds like an ad on a tourist location. Have the unique Japanese atomic bomb experience. It's like,
but that's true. It affected the culture a lot. The radiation, the aftermath. Also, it merged with the mentality that they already had, because it's a small island, and comparatively to Great Britain, for example, they have a long history of tsunamis due to the Pacific Ocean, and like a lot of eruptions. Like, Japan is a small place that is constantly shaken, regularly shaken by something much bigger than a human. I think that atomic bomb just kind of solidified that in the mentality in a unique way. It is fun because there's like that king dragon character that with 3 heads, that it represents the unnatural kaijus, and there are like natural kaijus that are like good-ish. So like the fight is between man-made horror and the force of nature, basically.
we choose to die by the natural disaster. It's better.
That's at least natural, like you succumb to the nature.
Yeah, it's interesting. Though the natural monster still has atomic breath.
Yeah, because at first it wasn't. It was just so popular that they decided it needs to side with people.
Cool.
I just watched the recent movies and I actually liked them a lot because I didn't expect to. You can tell that there was a lot of love for the original, that people actually knew the...
You mean the Bryan Cranston ones?
Yeah, those ones. Honestly, my mind just skips over human stuff. Basically, they do the kaijus right. If you want to see Godzilla how you like imagined it as a child, but realized in full scope of what people can do now with CGI, it's actually good. The first movie is like, it's kind of boring-ish, but every time they actually show Godzilla on the screen, it hits. It just hits. All of the blue spikes, the atomic breath, the weird stumpiness.
It's kaiju edging the movie.
Yeah, but the next ones are actually weirdly a bit better because they're more. They are fighting other kaijus. There is Batra, there is Mothra, there is all of those dudes.
I'll check it out. I haven't watched it yet, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's just been, I guess it's been kind of difficult to watch new stuff. I have watched the new Batman, and I know you haven't yet.
But if you're telling it's better.
It's a strong recommendation from me. It's just really about Batman.
They kind of lost me at the last Nolan movies. At the last Nolan movie.
Well, that's different.
I was on board
different.
for the second one. But still, it's hard to me to watch a movie that doesn't crack a joke, even sarcastically. Like, it's just hard. Marvel maybe takes it too far, but like, I can't.
I don't know. Every time Bane spoke, I kind of felt like somebody was cracking a joke. I liked it.
But like, yeah.
That's the power of it. I go around saying quotes from the third Nolan's Batman. Like,
well, it's
The Dark Knight
extremely
Rises.
memeable. Yeah, that's
At
true,
least like once, twice a month. Just for no reason. I would go like, I haven't seen the light of day until I was a grown man. But by then it was nothing but blind. Just like, I just really love this blind thing.
But do you do that because it hit close
very.
to home, or do you do that because that was ridiculous?
I like how Bane sounds like Deckard Cain. It's like, stay a while and listen. Diablo has my permission to die.
I'll check it out. Everybody's calling that Robert Pattinson Batman as you do. That's interesting. There is Nolan, there is Burton. You know what? In a way, Schumacher movies hold so much nostalgia for me because I know that Burton's a better...
I remember watching them, not understanding anything, but I was like, oh, that's very colorful.
Yeah.
I like it.
It is much more targeted at children, and maybe the gays.
They had ice skates, and I really wanted those toys. Like, I was so small, I didn't know that Mr. Freeze is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and like, I still wanted the toy. Like, I love what...
They were kind of larger than life.
I didn't care about the bat nipples at that age. It felt normal. Or the bat credit card. It's just like they tapped into the goofiness of Adam West and like all that stuff, but nobody was ready for it.
Yeah, I guess if you were a grown-up at that point, you would be like, what the actual... But as a child, it just... Honestly, it works. It works as a children's movie. Totally. It's bright, it's fun, the characters are distinguishable. Batman is charismatic. You actually see a lot of Robin and their dynamics. It worked. Really works.
Even when I was a child, the fake rubber lips counteract the poison I mean, it was cool, but it was so dumb. Like, it was so idiotic. I was like, what? Is it the lips when you, like, kiss?
I guess it's no
It
tongue.
was very weird. Well, moving on from Batman, there is something we both saw lately, a new Addams Family inspired TV show, Wednesday.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I'll come right out and say that I really liked
Yep.
it, even though
Yep.
it had a lot of shortcomings. The main character performance just cinched it so much. It was like the best. I didn't even really care about what's happening around it. It doesn't matter. It's just such a nice design, such a nice performance, such a cool, like, everything, music, style, image. I loved it. I could only imagine what it would do in a world that makes the tiniest bit of sense. Like, even a little bit, with an antagonist who makes the tiniest bit of sense or is interesting. Other than that, like, I don't mind. If they keep the Wednesday character as great, they can do whatever they want around it.
Yeah, I'll put right now a disclaimer that spoilers ahead, because I would want to talk about it a bit. There were so many interesting characters. The head of school was headmistress. I love her, just like the actress is wonderful. She might have been a more interesting villain.
We just talked with Anton in the previous podcast about this as well. So much cool stuff wasted, like just stated and wasted, because like, oh, here are vampires. Don't think you'll see them again. They are there. Kind of cool,
you
right?
kind of want it to be a little bit like the first Harry Potter book. You want to explore the school more, because you can tell that the artists and the person who did the visual designs did think that through. They probably thought through the vampires, they thought through the werewolves. The designs were there, the visual distinction was there. But
maybe next season we'll
I
have
hope that they go in there. Because I agree with you that like just the main character is so strong, and they just hit that vibe of the Addams Family right. Basically, it just really works from the contrast of like, it was called Addams Family Values, if I remember correct, that they're like actually strong family values, but you have the counterpoint of them being morbid. And it just works great, and they hit that on the nose, and that was the main thing. Otherwise, yeah, Enid acting was hit and miss, really.
A lot of things are wasted. The abilities, they literally have, what do they have in school? They have weird boat competitions, and they have biology class, and that's it. That's everything they're learning there. And it's really weird. Why only biology? Like, they had a little bit of math, I think, like at some point, but other than that, nothing. Yeah, the school itself is
Fencing.
wasted. Yeah, fencing. Like, they have biology, fencing, and competitions. Like, what kind of crazy, like, not everybody goes to fencing. I think it's like a faculty thing. You can take up fencing. You don't have to do it. It's a really weird place to be. The whole concept of outcasts is underutilized and underexplained, because there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's like, probably it's about having supernatural powers, and we learn that Wednesday does have supernatural powers.
Yeah.
But her father seems to not have any supernatural powers. And like, what is being an outcast? What does it even mean?
Yeah, they don't specify that. Either supernatural or you're murderous or twisted. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out that Gomez is a necromancer or something. That would clarify a lot in this franchise.
As far as I'm concerned, they all have supernatural powers or nature.
Probably
at the
they
end of the
hinted
day.
that, I think, like with the thing, and like kind of have to assume that that is what it is. Did Edgar Allan Poe have supernatural abilities? And then which ones? Do they say he's a vampire? Go into that. That's fun.
He has the power of perving on his 13-year-old cousin.
Ish.
It's not a superpower, but...
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I want to say one of my biggest problems with Wednesday as a character, though I love her very much, what I hate is how she actually relates to everything in the plot, because she's like, she should be delighted her father was a murderer, supposedly. She should be really happy the monster is killing people and just want to tame it or join it or just admire it. But she reacts like just a general main character, like in a young adult book or movie, just like the bland MC. And like they do both of those. They do the moments where she reacts as an Addams family member.
Yeah, that's the weird
And then they
part.
do the main character reactions.
There was like that specific moment in the very beginning. It's setting up that how would that look on your record? Like and they're like horrible, they would know I didn't finish the job. So it's heavily implied that she's a-okay with murder. I think they started it as she just had a conundrum of like, but he died, but they say that he didn't, and then she's like, no, I need to figure out which one's the truth.
Well, they didn't specify either way, so it's like it just feels contrived and messy and confusing.
Yeah, I could go along with that. I just need to prove to myself I'm not crazy. I can go with that. Madness is not as fun as I expected to. Like, that works. But they do go then in the main thing, like my father would never hurt a fly, and then she basically draws a line at murder, and she
But
doesn't.
my father would never hurt a fly, but he taught, like, there was a line where, like, who else would teach a small girl fencing?
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
It's like, it's weird. It doesn't make sense. Let's talk about his horrible teeth.
Why?
Like, they're just disgusting,
Why?
man.
Why did you do that, Tim? Why did you need that? But just why?
I'm absolutely okay with him being like really overweight and like even being kind of overly a bit gross with her mother. It's kind of part of how they did it. Like, it was more charismatic before in the movies, and maybe it's like just we're seeing it through Wednesday's eyes that she's like doesn't like her parents to show intimacy in front of her. But like, they are rich. Why does he have horrible teeth?
It makes no sense because and also Gomez should be charismatic. The point was that you were like, ew, parents no, but they always were hashtag like couples goals. That's the point. He is kind of funny. He's a bit ridiculous. The striped suit, the funny mustache, but he was never repulsing. He was never written as repulsing. And he's written in as a kind but repulsing, you know? Like, and that's a very odd choice for me.
He gives off a vibe of the main henchman of the evil guy in a Disney cartoon.
Yeah, he gives a vibe of a creep.
Because they exaggerated his nose, they exaggerated his teeth.
Yeah, and that was a choice, a conscious choice, paired up with the type of beauty that Catherine Zeta-Jones have. My wife actually commented on that she cannot remember her face because it's so, like, there are types of faces that are just, like, perfect. Maybe it was to counter that because...
Obscenely symmetrical,
yeah. And even classic Morticia always being, like, you know, hot, were a little more like vampire character, like faces that are like a little more vamp. And Catherine Zeta-Jones is just like obscenely symmetric and like perfect looking. Maybe it was to counter that, but I don't know. I don't know why would they do that. I did not enjoy that choice, I would say.
Still, TikTok and like YouTube Shorts are just plagued entirely by the dance with your hands music. It's just like everywhere. It's still everywhere, and it's been some time. And like, I especially love when they like somebody's doing like a lag dance, like to the dance with your hands. It's like, it's just so popular. Well, everybody just uses it. I think
it was heavily marketed. I think it was made to be heavily marketed, and it was heavily marketed. And
that dance,
it worked.
Honestly, like the best part of the show, like, and the actress has choreographed it herself.
Really, I didn't know.
And it's just
that.
like yeah, it was so good. It was just like that struck a chord, and like hopefully next season I wouldn't mind if they threw out basically everybody and everything and started again. Just like I'm okay with, I like Enid. I don't like the way she looks when she's turned into a werewolf. That CGI was so bad that I would prefer shadow fights. Like that would be enough for me.
The budget went out on that one. They're hinting on a Wednesday Enid possible romantic line in the next one.
That would be so much more interesting to me. And I was waiting for it. It's annoying. I feel like the way they showed it in the first season, it would be tacky now because like it doesn't feel like there's that energy at all. Like it felt in the beginning, but by the end it's like a really solid friend zone there. Like it now will feel forced to me. But
maybe if they can write it in. I'm all representation and all, like, give me that. I also don't know if I feel the chemistry there right now. I'm excited about the concept. I'm excited about the fan art and like how that look. But as is, like, especially first half of the season, Enid was a struggle for me. Because for me, she was acting wise just not natural. And she kind of got better as it went along.
I know. I was kind of fine with it. I think she was really awkward, but I sort of believe that awkward awkwardness was actually rooted in the character.
Maybe. I kind of felt like she was supposed to be like a more socially savvy compared to like counterpoint to Wednesday, but she was just extremely awkward. But like maybe that was the point. Also, that line is not fully. She's the gossip queen, but she's also like awkward, outcasty. But no, she has friends. But like
no, I think that works a little bit differently. But to me, it rang true because like she's social media gossip queen.
Okay.
Like she sucks at communication in real life, but she's really good like at writing in her blog, making posts, and that's a different skill set.
Yeah.
It's not that she's like really good at communicating, she's just really good at her like social media.
No, you're right. It's not like
to
she's not set up as being extremely popular. Just like a run-of-the-mill girl with like strong hobby.
She's a teenage influencer, which is a horrible thing to be, actually. Cut her some slack.
I do love her in a weird way of, like when I had an aggressive reaction to Pinkie Pie when I first watched the My Little Pony ones. The joyful, upbeat, weirdly aggressive, like in a werewolf kind of way, like girl, I'm like, I know who I would have related to as a teenager.
Yeah, it's just hard to look at your own like shortcomings from the sidelines.
Yeah, maybe that.
Okay, like I think that's good. That's good on Wednesday. I am sort of looking into the world of manga and anime recently. And one of the new weirdest things is that I fell in love with is the anime recaps, which is entirely AI.
Entirely AI?
Yeah, it's voiced entirely by AI.
I said because you told me about the recaps, but I assumed it was like man-made situation.
No, the scripts I'm pretty sure they might be made partially by ChatGPT, but I think the scripts are written by a person because the reason I found out it was AI voicing this was because AI tried to voice the typos. So you hear like this sounds weird, and then you realize that what that word would be if you missed a letter, and you're like, oh. That's cool, and they are so lifelike.
So basically, you can't even tell from the beginning.
You can't tell. Like if you know what you're looking for, you can. Like it's a little bit repetitive after like when you listen to like 40 minutes of it, and the intonations they don't repeat too often, but they do. Like and so you kind of start feeling that. But it's incredibly well tuned. It's just.
We also kind of came back to anime recently while we were traveling, and when we came here, we haven't watched anime in a while, except for like separate titles like our good old yaoi stuff like in Yuri on Ice and all that. And then we kind of full on came back and like watched 3 seasons of Attack on Titan that everybody watched like 10 years ago. Like
Is it over now? Is it?
I don't know. I think.
Is there another
season? Half of the season was told to come out in January. I actually haven't checked if it did because we decided not to watch the 4th season until it's all out and then watch just all together.
Oh yeah, so you have one more season left.
Yeah, we have one more season.
I just like the thing is when I read the manga. And I read Attack on Titans, I think 3 times. I kind of don't want to watch the anime.
Oh, I understand that. I completely.
I go and look up some of the cooler like battle scenes on YouTube. They're usually there fully like, and I look at that and I'm like, yeah, that's really good. But other than that, I guess I don't have that much of a need.
No, the thing is, before, and I completely understand you on that, and I think that's kind of how we both came up reading. Like I say that I've seen One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, but I haven't. I read them. Like I've watched.
You've never seen the amounts of filler.
Yeah,
you're not a veteran.
Yeah, I've seen like the first seasons of Naruto, but as soon as it went into the fillers before the Shippuden series, I was like, nope, I'm out of here. And I think I watched like first 20 episodes of One Piece was Cat, but like my best friend, and then
that
read it.
After the Naruto story ends, Naruto the anime doesn't stop, and I'm not talking about Boruto.
What?
Naruto Shippuden keeps on going. It's when you came, but she keeps on sucking. It's like it goes into like it shows the wedding ceremony of Hinata, of how Kakashi became the Hokage, and like so many more things. It shows how Indra and Asura had their own like abilities and what they did in the past.
Why?
It shows Itachi killing his girlfriend and
What
and
girlfriend?
his parents and what kind of conversations they had about it. And like there's the story ends and there's like 200 more episodes after that.
What?
Like literally
Aw.
Naruto anime is 50% filler, like 50%.
That's
Like it's insane.
crazy.
Shippuden has like 800 episodes, I think. It's never ended. Just like
Really? I didn't know that. Oh god.
yeah, that's why you can look up the craziest things on YouTube, like Mecha Naruto against Naruto, when there was a robot Naruto built to fight the actual Naruto, and he has like a Mecha Nine Tails, and he has rocket arms, and like he
Oh,
turns
God.
into a tank. It's
Oh,
all so
God.
weird.
No, I haven't ever heard about that actually. I think just disassociated from Naruto fully when the manga stopped. I was like, I made it. I'm never opening that again. And I think I didn't have that with Bleach because I haven't read like the last. Is it still going or is it done?
It's like Bleach is over. Like Kubo is supposedly going to create a new arc, the Hell arc. But yeah, like the problem was that the last arc where it was Quincy's against Shinigamis against Hollows.
Yeah, I think
and
I
everybody.
stopped somewhere there because I just got myself together. I sat down, I started reading it, and I got like through most of the Quincy's against Shinigamis. But it was so repetitive. They were just all redrawings of the previous villains. And it's just like, that I don't even remember where I dropped it because I don't care. I just don't care anymore.
Actually, when you look at it closely, like there are a lot of really cool concepts, but it seems like the mental health of Kubo was really going at that point.
yeah, it's just not
And
realized.
he was made to cut it really, really short. But the new Bleach anime actually has a lot more content than the manga, and Kubo is helping to create it. And it is called one of the best animes of the year,
Really?
actually, of 2022.
Really?
Because it has insane levels of animation, and it's just done perfectly with music and like expanding on all sorts of topics that were important. So
on Bleach, you would actually recommend not reading it and just going into an anime right now and catching up.
yeah, I would say that if you just like you finish the previous arcs with Hollows and you just stopped on Quincy's, yeah, just watch the anime. It's better.
Yeah, I read some of the Quincy's arc and I just like stopped in the middle and I completely forgot what was there. Like I remembered.
I had to. I honestly, I read it all. I had to watch some, like analysis videos to just kind of like. So what was this? And it's that was like okay, like, and they just they go into pages and look really hard and read all the data books, and they're like, oh, this was this and this was that, and it's just really badly shown.
Yeah, I see. You know what's really fun for me? It's like I finished reading Naruto a while back, coming back to it, reading like 100 chapters and that's it. And we're talking about Bleach and they're still in the arc about Quincy's and I read a bunch of that, but like there's a bit more. I stopped reading One Piece at some point because I just stopped reading manga for a while, like for like a few years, like 5 or 10. Those things I'm like, I could catch up with Bleach, I could catch up with Naruto, but One Piece was actually my favorite, always. Like it's just hands down my favorite manga. But I'm looking at it and I stopped at like chapter 600 something. And it's another 500 chapters, even if I don't watch the anime. And I'm like, oh God, when?
Oh my god, you actually missed a lot.
Yeah, I'm way out of loop. I'm like way out of loop. I haven't seen. I'm going into anime shop. I'm seeing obviously One Piece figurines. I have no idea who that is. Like some Harupi ladies. The design. I'm looking at it like there is an Oda design. I know that it is. And the thing is, I don't remember specifics. I always don't remember like the last 100 chapters. And if I read it a while ago, I kind of need to refresh it in my head. I just cannot commit to sitting down to 1,000 something chapters. I just before I was reading it alone, and now we're kind of watching anime together, and it's kind of hard to read manga together, and that's why I started actually watching anime, because I used to always read it alone, like, and now we just watch it together. So yeah.
Well, for me, manga is still like a very like important pastime by myself. Yeah, I have less time for it, and it takes actually quite a bit of concentration. It is comparable in a way to reading novels. The difference is you can read manga and comic books really just surface level. You just read the text, you kind of glance at the pictures. You often don't understand much, but like the actual way to read, comic books and manga is to actually follow the pictures, really look into them, just contemplate, read the words, sound them out in your head. And then like it does take quite a bit of imagination. And by now, Oda's manga right now feels, well, you don't even know because you haven't even read that far. Well, it just feels like it's just the script for the anime because there's so much. It's like JoJo. It's impossible from some point to read it without color. Like if you are going to reread One Piece, by the way, there is I think around 500 chapters officially colored. Officially, yeah. On Shueisha's manga. It's not by Oda, but by somebody who works for Jump. I don't know. And it's. I would suggest you reread that, like so that you can have all the colors.
Yeah, I'd love to.
I read JoJo starting from the third arc only in color because it's impossible to tell what's going on otherwise. It's just so much going on there.
I remember even at like later chapters, like 400s, 500s, 600s, he became so dense. It was like 10 to 12 characters every chapter, mixed lines. And I understand that keeps an anime active and like full comparatively to like Naruto when you need to drag it out, put in fillers. Oda, one chapter of Oda, you can do a lot with it. But as a manga, it was very hard to follow at some point. It just was a lot.
It doesn't get better. Like it feels like he's getting better at actually directing your attention and like the story having some flow because like the Wano arc reads really well. The previous ones are kind of a blur to me. Like I have to reread those as well. It's not it's not even the length, it's the density because I reread Hajime no Ippo, which is at 2,000 chapters now. It's still going. It's still going. Like there are new ones coming out and like we're here for it.
An ability to enjoy the long form is a very specific one nowadays. There's a person who watches 4-hour streams.
I lied to you. It's actually only 1,400 chapters.
I feel like Oda can top that.
I don't know. He's still going. Like Morikawa is working like I think it's almost 50 years now. It's like insane.
You said it is over.
No.
No, it is going. It is going. Hajime no Ippo is still going. Okay.
Yeah, everywhere.
Then probably no.
I love the fact that like the nostalgia, like with manga as opposed to like shows from the 90s or 80s, it's not like when you have nostalgia, it's not that you're having nostalgia for something that hasn't been out in a long time. It's literally, okay, Naruto was going this whole time. Then it's sort of like, it didn't even stop really because Boruto is not drawn and written by Kishimoto Masashi, but he was overseeing it. And then after some time, he went, okay, I'm going to continue doing it now myself. So he just took it back.
Really?
Yeah, and he's creating,
oh God.
Also he is, or am I mistaking it with Dragon Ball? But anyway, he's definitely creating a new manga by himself about Minato. There was a giant poll where you could vote for which character you want a new manga to be written about. The world of manga and anime is insane. That's one of the things like inside my brain. I want to move to USA because like it makes sense because I can speak the language really well. And actually even the anime and manga I have always consumed through the prism of the United States English because like I'm reading translations. But at the same time I have this crazy thought sometimes like, man, just move to Japan.
I completely understand that because like Steph is completely obsessed with Japan, but she spent a lot of time getting to know the culture, like, and the people. And actually, it left her kind of heartbroken because it is not inclusive for foreigners at all. You're just excluded from that, basically. So we want to go there for like, we've been talking about like, not this year, but like maybe the next year because she can take summers off if we're still here and we have the option. We're thinking to do a language school for the language for like a summer, for like a month or two.
Yeah.
We were thinking that could be good because you can do that shorter level, and even I can do that. And phonetics of Japanese are pretty easy, so I think I can do that enough.
Oh,
Like,
maybe we'd love to do that with you, but I don't think we would be able to align our schedules. But I know there are some YouTubers that moved out there and they're like hanging out with each other basically.
yeah, but they stay in the YouTube. Like, basically, they have like a community.
There's a bubble,
I
yeah.
would. Yeah, there is a bubble because like you cannot integrate fully because it's just such an and with states, say what you will, but it is an immigrant country. I'm in Georgia, in a small town like that is, well, it's a city, I guess, like 140 or like 35,000 people. But there's like two colleges here, and it's all communities. It's a bunch of immigrants. There's like maybe every fifth Uber driver that I meet is actually like American, actually Southern, I mean local here, and not either immigrant from one country or another country, or came from another state. And Uber drivers here, it's not like poor taxi drivers. It's people Uber here just like a side thing, like it was in the beginning in Moscow. Then it was like fully taxi drivers take over,
Well,
So it's
there's a lot more to that.
it's much easier to integrate here, is what I say, because people don't expect you to be American, actually.
Yeah, well, Uber in the United States also has like there are like 30 or 40% of them that are working full time, but without them the system wouldn't work. So there's still so it is a side hustle, but it's also really is full-time employment for some, but without the benefits.
Yeah,
It's like
definitely.
there's a real problem there because gig economy kind of stripped people off union protections completely, but at the same time, like sort of tricked them at some points to go in. But yeah, that's a big topic.
That's interesting, actually.
I would love to go to I would love to go live in US as well. Like this immigrant mentality is exactly what I'm thinking about. I've been even reading about Canada that it's a bit more, there are more like immigrant communities forming like little enclaves, like a little Italy or little Chinatowns, and less of a real like melting pot that is America. And I do understand that most of I've been reading and watching everything in English since I was around 18 years old, or maybe even 16. That's at that point I realize now that's mostly American. It's not even like it's not British. It's like some of it just a little bit, but mostly it's all American. That makes me think, like, whenever I meet people from America and I talk to them, they understand my jokes a lot better than whenever I talk to, like, my regular friends. And it's weird. Like, I'm more connected to the American culture a lot than the Russian culture. I know a lot more about important figures there. And it's weird, because, like, I'm 30 years old now, haven't lived in America, only visited for a very short time. And still, I feel like I now identify as bilingual in a way that I'm like, no, this I really like. Maybe if you scan my brain, you won't see the second language center that forms when you're like really small, when you're in the mother's like womb. But I feel like no, I can actually think in English. I do not translate anything, and I have like thought patterns that work only in English. So it's interesting.
I agree. I think you have a closer relationship with a speaking language, just like phonetics wise. You've been much more precise and attentive to that. But like the thing where like my brain fully functions in English half of the time. Like even with my, at this point it became like, it was interesting because there was not much of a transfer like language wise. And I think that's something you probably not struggle with, but like I know like Georgia mostly speaks in Georgian. Like there is Russian, there is English, but like it is a different language terrain. Like and here, like at the moment where I actually started talking to people, my brain just full switched. It goes sometimes blank because I'm a little used to. And I think actually, weirdly, I do that more than you because you either go full Russian or full English. And I just like, I melt in between. I speak 3 words here, then I switch to Russian, then I speak like 2 sentences there, and then go back and like speak for 15 minutes in English. And sometimes my mind just blanks when I switch. Like I just speak in English, and then my brain went we usually went for a Russian word here, for one Russian word, and then continued in English. It gives me like a lag. The brain buffers for that one word, and then goes back to English, and it's very weird.
Yeah, I at some point I actually had like different personalities for different languages. With time, they kind of came closer together. For example, there was a long time where I didn't express any really complicated thoughts in English. It was more of like, okay, let's talk about entertainment, let's talk about TV shows, let's talk about like games, just like the more surface level, regular conversation stuff. But then I started sort of like having some friendships with people and like exchanging voice notes, and I started formulating the difficult thoughts and things and topics that was a lot more nuanced, and it required some metaphors, required like expressing like deep feelings, like multi-layered feelings and thoughts. And then it's kind of it keeps getting closer and closer. Just looking for those. It's like in my brain I sort of speak three languages. There is the Russian, there's the English, but there's like the native feeling, consciousness, just like perception of myself and the world. And it feels more like it's wordless. It's like the impulses, the little body feelings, the like sometimes like I don't know, like some thoughts feel cold to me in a way like this. I get cold and it's like, oh, or I'm afraid, or I'm just like, and that I translate to Russian, and that I translate to English, and sometimes I know how this particular feeling translates to Russian.
Yeah.
But I do not know how this particular feeling translates to English. I can find it, but it will take me some time. It will be different from Russian. So I think this sort of level of self-monitoring, self-observation is what you need to be good at languages. At the same time, well, basically, maybe we have that. It's like how, if you can separate yourself from the language. It's
a whole field in psychology that like how the verbal language actually builds your psyche, and how much it actually affects just the baseline of your neuron connections that are made, and how much just your brain builds by the language existing, and how much the feeling formed. It's just a field where it is explored how much is it the initial feeling that is transformed into a word, and how much it is a word that you learn that it provides you with the frame of reference for the feeling to be fully realized. And there are like some things that you feel, and they do have like just a Russian name. A lot of like weirdly specific sad cold feelings only have Russian names.
It's funny.
Yeah, like like toska, like it has like a very specific sad feeling that is hard to translate without using like 3 or 4 words.
Yeah, well, there's melancholy, which is a bit different.
And you kind of will go through them. They're all a bit different.
Yeah, I would go like, I'm aching for something. Like, for example, that's what I would go with.
Yeah, you can explain it, but it's just like you're aching for something that is not long lost, but kind of lost, but is far away, but is, because aching for something can be like a very bright feeling when it's like breakup or something like that, you know, like can be a lot of flavors, but that one is a very specific nostalgic-esque, melancholic-esque, missing something that might be not gone at all. It is, and there are things like that in English that you cannot translate back. I cannot come up with an example right now.
Serendipity
you're right.
Is the most popular one for that. It's like, what is serendipity? Well, what's like when things go together? Well, you're just really reminding me of my first course at when I was studying linguistics. There was a lot about meaning and stuff. I remember actually, like, I didn't speak a lot with our father throughout my life. I remember when I was a kid, at some point he was like trying to sell me on some psychological bullshit, and he was like, "Well, how do you think?" You think like in words, right? And I thought about it, and I was like, no, I don't think in words. Like I can think in pictures, and like I really think in pictures. And then he's like, okay, so you think in pictures? And I said, you know what? Actually, I think in words too. Sometimes, like I can do both. And he was annoyed and left me alone. But I did realize, like, and after a long time, like I think a year ago, I found out that people either think in words or in pictures, or in both words and pictures. That's the idea. And I think in both. I can think. And one of the craziest things I can do with my brain to me is I can start writing the words that I'm thinking in like a 3D space. I can imagine like flaming letters appearing as I'm thinking them. It takes some time, like drawing by hand, but you need some sort of concentration not to forget what you already wrote. That part is like, it takes a lot of focus, but it's fun. Like it is really fun.
I'm trying to think of what am I thinking like, and I obviously can think in pictures. I think that's the primary. I can imagine thinking in words, and some things I only thought in words, but mostly it's pictures.
I know that Lika thinks in words, and even her dreams are very verbal. They're a lot more verbal than they are pictures, and it's interesting. Like people are different.
It is interesting. I need to ask Steph about that. I know that there is the segmentation usually is a sign of neurodivergency, because I know like Kat thinks in a very specific way. It's pictures and it's separated segments that she can basically store and regroup like in a small boxes that.
Which cat? Roger?
No, Kazakh.
I thought an actual cat. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like,
who knows how? I think your cat thinks in food. So like,
I just imagine you sitting in front of some cats in Georgia and was like, man, I can really feel how he's categorizing shit and just putting it into different. It's like, what?
There was a moment like in my university lectures where like a teacher went like, don't do that. You don't know what the cats think. You don't know what the dogs think. You have theories. You don't. Nobody does. Nobody knows what the dog thinks.
Sounds like he had a really bad divorce with the dog.
It was like a breaking point.
It's like just the dog been cheating on him like for years and he never knew. He thought they had a strong marriage, and it's like never think you know what the dog thinks, because it could be so. You could be hurt in the end. Like it's horrible.
Yeah. Basically, the process of thought creation and the impulse is very interesting to me, obviously, but it's a whole thing.
Also, I like to look out at a big space, and I sort of put different thoughts and like processes or images in the distance. Like I'm just like, here I'm thinking about this, and here I'm thinking about some other thing, so that I can kind of parse them apart, so that they're not all crowded in one space.
I think in like full 3D spaces, like the distance, the touch, the texture, the like. I just And it gets weird as you do with thinking. Sometimes when I focus up, just trying to see that if you focus up on recollecting something in detail, it does the same thing as an AI picture does. Your fingers get twisted, the textures get weird. If you focus, the brain does the same thing. That's the funny part. If you just like go in small details, you can see in your brain's eye how it gets twisted. It's fun. Feels like you're going crazy. But like, yeah, for me, like a textural central, I guess.
I guess my thinking is a lot more 2D.
Thought process in it.
I mean, it is 3D, but in a way that like a 2D picture that looks like 3D. That is like doesn't really have, it doesn't really anchor to actual spots. Like it's just like an image.
Yeah, but I think the more I think about it, I almost don't think in words. You probably can tell from my past.
Yeah, like I could always tell.
But the more I'm thinking about it, and so that is interesting that you can mix that.
It sort of allows me, like I think I'm more verbal than I am like imaginative, but it allows me to kind of connect with people in different types of conversations. It actually allows me often, I feel, to overwhelm whatever the type of thinker I'm talking to, because if they're very verbal, I'll start throwing different spatial concepts at them and like start putting different ideas on different shelves and like in different places, and like and the humor really works there as well. And if I'm talking to somebody who thinks in pictures, I'm just like I'm getting them with the logic and with the like chains of words and like how everything connects to each other. So that's fun.
So honey, you're versatile.
It's true. But I feel like I'm somewhere on the spectrum in a way that I really get overloaded with information, and I tested it in different moments of my life, on even when I was just taking some tranquilizers or antidepressants or different moods times of day. Just if there is a lot of sound, if there are a lot of people, there is a lot of movement, I shut down. Like I get so disoriented, it's incredible. I cannot take any like overstimulating environment because like regular environment is already really stimulating to me. I'm just like I'm really open to it. I never once actually enjoyed a concert. I would go to them. Yeah, like, and I would go to them because you wanted to go to them, but it was actually kind of hell for me. To me, every concert I went to felt like, you know, like they show somebody after a grenade exploding next to them in the movie. Too loud to hear anything, too like difficult to watch, like difficult to observe anything. And I didn't have the idea that people can be so different at that age. So I was always like, no, I'm fine, all good, like no problem. But it wasn't like, but I wasn't okay actually. It was like I was completely out of my depth there. It's interesting. Like,
yeah, it is very interesting because I know that neurodivergency comes in different shapes. Not all of it is autistic spectrum. Sometimes it's just like we're just not as familiar.
It's very early in the science because like there's it's
very
called
early.
hypersensitivity. I found some stuff about it. It's not too much, but it does exist.
And for me, the interesting thing is like you're correct in that. Like I'm okay on a concert, and I'm okay when there is like a specific overload. Like I'm there to listen to the music, and all of my attention is on that, and it's too loud, and my senses get like overloaded in a very straightforward thing, and I'm okay. But funnily enough, I cannot stand like malls, crowds. There's a time limit. There's a time limit how much I can do that. I need to constantly be, if there are like beeping noises, a lot of different voices, just a lot of channels of information that are different, I overload within like 10 to 15 minutes and I just go blank. I cannot, Steph was just like holding me by a hand and dragging me out of the place. Or I need to put on my headphones and put on a very specific and maybe loud YouTube show for my brain to go in one channel, you know? And then kind of puts me out.
It seems like we actually have sort of like the same thing there then, because what you're...
But I can't do concerts because like I just go into a one channel thing. I fully like... I'm looking at that vocalist, I'm looking at that like band, like, and I'm okay. But if it's like more than 2 or 3 things happening at the same time, my brain just goes into like.
I know. I just
circuit.
guess like I never liked any bands that much. Maybe if there was one that I really liked, I would be able to do that. Like I don't know. Then again, the bands that I like, they're not loud. Like basically, Flight of the Conchords, like. Is there going to be mosh pitting to Flight of the Conchords? No, never.
But honestly, we went to like rock festival when I was young, and it was a rock festival where we went to like we went there early, and there was like a whole day of concerts, and the headliner was 9 Inch Nails, and we were like with Steph's friends who were like madly into 9 Inch Nails, like the Sasha. We came in there early. We're in the first row. There were like several bands, and then in the end was 9 Inch Nails, and I didn't know any of them. Like it was a lot, and I didn't know those bands, and my brain went like I don't know, and then it overloads. Now when I think about it, I never thought about it that way. It's like I cannot do clubs if I'm sober. And a lot of crowd things I couldn't do when I'm sober. I drank with other bands.
I guess I didn't drink. I never drank when I went to those places. I guess that's my mistake, because you need your senses.
Yeah, that sedated me. I fully sedated myself. I couldn't do like crowds more than 5 people without overloading. And that's why I drank when I was young. It's very hard for me to stay sober when we meet up with a large amount of friends. Honestly, and that was a whole problem. And I was very social. Like it's an interesting. It helps with the pills that I'm on right now. I think it kind of stabilizes me a bit.
Just the day before, like yesterday, we went to a party, and like I drank like 1 cocktail, and it was the correct decision. First of all, we didn't know anybody there aside from the hosts, like 2 people, and there were like 10 more.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And it was like I don't know anybody here, and I felt like okay, I cannot do this like completely sober just because it's too much. Like,
well, it's social lubricant for a reason, you know.
yeah. So I started drinking, and I sat down and I asked for Mortal Kombat to be put on the TV, and then I proceeded to destroy everybody for a long time, and that really helped me. So like, and by then the alcohol kicked in, and everybody kind of had a relationship with me where they're like, stop beating me with one weird move, which I enjoy. Well, anyway, but yeah, I really like just talking about the perception, the thought process, the way that the way that I and as a human being process what's happening to me in the world.
Not just functioning, really.
Thank you very much for coming to my third podcast, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Stanis out.